What's up, you guys, and welcome to the Neo Dark Sage channel, where we talk about any and everything media / entertainment related. And in today's video, you already saw the thumbnail, you see the title, you know what we're about to get into, and Kanye West is one of my favorite artists of all time. I think that he's a musical genius, but in the recent years after My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, I feel like there's been such a slow decline of quality when it actually comes to Kanye West music. So in today's video, we're going to be ranking all of Kanye West's albums, solo albums. The rule is we're not going to add any joint albums because, well, that's just a bit too hard and it's way too more subjective than what I'm trying to get into today. And obviously Kanye could have done his thing and I could have felt like the other person didn't do their thing enough, so that would have ranked the album down in this whole album discography thing. So I didn't want to do that. I kind of want to do only Kanye's solo projects, like his albums itself. So without further ado, let's go ahead and take a look at this tier list. All right, so as you can see from this tier list, we have ranks S through F. And like I said, we got most of Kanye West's albums. Now, the only album I have not listened to were the Sunday Service ones and Donda 2. Donda 2 is now on streaming services. It was on a little Kanye West device thing that I do want to get one day, but also I don't want to spend the money to get it one day. We'll just have to do with the albums that obviously we have all listened to, or at least all had the chance to listen to itself. And as usual, we're going to start off with the first album. We're going to go in order from College Dropout all the way to Donda 1. So let's go ahead and look at the College Dropout track list. Now, when it comes to College Dropout, I think that is a phenomenal debut album. And the only critique that I have with this album, and obviously this is his first album, so I shouldn't have too much critiques with it, especially after seeing his whole documentary on Netflix. The only critique on it that I have is that a lot of the features on here, whenever he does have a feature, kind of outshines him. Let's look at the song Slow Jams with Twista and Jamie Foxx. Jamie Foxx, phenomenal on the hook. We only get one Kanye verse, and then we get two Twista verses. Twista murdered that song. Kanye did his thing, especially as the first person to rap on the song, but Twista murdered him. And then we got other songs like Spaceship, where I didn't feel like Kanye was murdered per se. I don't feel like anyone did better than Kanye. I think they were all on equal playing ground. But when we have a song like Never Let Me Down, dang, Jay really didn't well, yes he did, because Jay had way more times to rap than Kanye. So I will technically have to say that Jay outdid him on that song only because Jay had more time on that song. And Get 'Em High is just such a fun song. I think the only song I really don't like on this is Breathe In, Breathe Out featuring Ludacris. And Ludacris is one of my favorite rappers of all time. So to have the marriage of Kanye West and Ludacris on one song together and I don't like it, how did you F up? I'm just kidding. He didn't technically F up because, I mean, he did great with this album. But a lot of these songs, especially with songs like Through the Wire, such a great song. College Dropout, I really have no problems with it. This stays on repeat and it gets thrown in the playlist. So I'm gonna have to rank College Dropout at an A tier. College Dropout is such an amazing, phenomenal debut album and I have no problems with it. But now we have to rank his sophomore album. And usually artists, they usually get that sophomore slump, but Kanye really didn't. So let's go ahead and check out Late Registration's track list. Now we are on Late Registration, and the difference between Late Registration and College Dropout went for that more sample heavy route, while Late Registration does have some samples here and there, but Kanye definitely went different with the production with using more live instrumentations. Like, you could definitely tell which instruments he was using on some of these beats, and the way that he layers some of these beats, the way that some of these beats sound. None of these songs from this album or College Dropout sound the same. These two albums sound sonically so different, yet they're just so Kanye, and I love them. Like, some of my favorite tracks on here, Touch the Sky featuring Lupe Fiasco, who murdered his verse. Gold Digger, obviously a mainstream track that we all love. Drive Slow, another mainstream track with our boy Paul Wall on there. Guess so, we gotta rep Houston on here. We got Crack Music featuring The Game, and it's funny that The Game has a whole verse on here. Not in the album version. No, Kanye scrapped that ish, which I'm glad that Kanye scrapped that ish, because Game's verse does not have anything to do with the actual song. Kanye was killing it with this whole, spiritual, miracle, lyrical, this political aspect, and then Game wants to come in here with literal drug rap. Game, what are you doing? You're off topic right now. Like, if you was writing a paper game, you would fail right now. But I mean, he was cool for the hook that Kanye left him on. Oh man, we got Roses, we got Bring Me Down, we got Addiction. How am I supposed to be glad, make me feel so good? That song is so hard. Addiction is so hard. Diamonds from Sierra Leone. First off, I would have rather just had the remix and not the original. I could have just done with the remix on here. He didn't have to put the original. The original's all the way in the back of the album. And honestly, I want to say with this album, the one thing I have up with College Dropout compared to this album is that, to me, College Dropout is pretty good all the way through, while with this album, I kind of get a bit tired of this album after a while. I think the last song that I would love to have as like a last song is Diamonds from Sierra Leone remix. If it was just a 13-track album, including the skits too, I'm eating. I mean, I'm still eating either way, but songs like We Major, I really didn't care about. Hey Mama is cool. I have no problem with that. Celebration, Gone, Diamonds from Sierra Leone, the actual original version. I didn't really care for that. Late, We Can Make It Better, Back to Basics. Like, to me, this is where the album kind of dips off, and this is where I kind of get to skip territory, where I start skipping around some stuff. But if I'm listening to the album, you know, I let it ride, but I turn the volume down so I can actually start thinking about other stuff. But overall, I think Late Registration is such a great album as well, along with College Dropout. So I have to give Late Registration the title of A. Late Registration, College Dropout, we're doing good so far. 2 Kanye albums in the rank of A. Like I said before, I'm only comparing Kanye albums to Kanye albums. So if I put something in S, you know, it's obviously compared to all his other works that he has. But if I put something in F, that's also compared to all his other works that he has. And that doesn't mean like I rank it as an F overall, but I rank it as an F when it comes to Kanye's discography itself, as a total body of work compared to all his other bodies of work. So let's go ahead and get into the third and my favorite album that he's come out with, Graduation. So now we have Graduation right here, and I literally have no problems on this album. In fact, I think I have like maybe one skip on this album. Graduation to me is such a phenomenal album, especially when it comes to the sound that Kanye West tried to produce on this album as well. As usual with the whole College trilogy, this album sounds completely different compared to the previous 2 albums right here. In fact, like I said before, there is nothing on here that sounds like anything else that he has on his previous albums. The way that he raps, the way that the beats sound, the way that his flow and cadences are on this album, I really do like it, especially with songs like Good Morning, which is a great starter, and one of the best ending tracks of all time, Big Brother. Oh my gosh, we're dedicating it to Jay-Z. Oh my gosh, this is good. But some other tracks I do like my favorite one on here, Champion, Good Life, Can't Tell Me Nothing, Barry Bonds, Drunken Hot Girls. That's a bit of a skip, but if I'm listening to the whole album, I won't skip it. We also got Flashing Lights. Flashing Lights is like a classic at this point. Come on. We got Everything I Am, The Glory, Homecoming. There's just so many great tracks on here. We also have some bonus tracks which weren't really on like the streaming service versions, but hey, we got some extra tracks on here. But really the album kind of stops at Big Brother. With a 13-track album, super solid. Kanye West knew what he was doing, so I have to rank Graduation at a S rank, because Graduation is just such a phenomenal album, and what it did for hip-hop, what Kanye just did for hip-hop in general from these previous 3 albums. Phenomenal work. I cannot thank Kanye enough for what he has done, and the fact that he beat out one of the biggest rappers at the time, 50 Cent, that was both on their 3rd commercial albums. Graduation beating out Curtis, even though Curtis wasn't that good of an album either way. I mean, Curtis doesn't even compare. I will honestly say that I think College Dropout is a better album than Get Rich or Die Trying. I think that Kanye has a better first trilogy than 50 Cent does a first trilogy. I mean, come on, let's be real. Let's keep it consistent over here. But now it's time to rank, to me, the best hip hop album of all time. So you kind of already know where I'm going to put this at, but we're still going to have to rank it and talk about some of the tracks on here. So let's go ahead and talk about My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy. Hold up, scratch that. I did all that talk for My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, and the actual next album was 808s and Heartbreaks, which I think is still a good album. I don't think it's as great as all these other albums on here, but for what it did for hip hop, changing the whole landscape / soundscape of hip hop, it's pretty influential. I will say that. So I have to give it its credit where it's due. So let's go ahead and talk about 808s and Heartbreak. Now we have 808s and Heartbreak, and this is definitely a different sound for Kanye, with him going for the more moody, bass heavy, atmospheric sounds and more emotional type of theming when it comes to this album itself. I mean, certain tracks like Say You Will, Welcome to Heartbreak, Heartless, Amazing, Love Lockdown, Paranoid. I think that Kanye just has such an amazing run throughout this whole album. Like when you listen to this album, it just all flows seamlessly. It's all great, and it's all just, ooh, you got it in your car? Oh, this bombs. Oh, this bombs. You gotta turn it up too, because it's 808s and Heartbreak. You gotta hear the 808s, and honestly, this album has gotten me through a lot of heartbreak nights. You get what I'm saying? When my heart was broken, this album got me through a lot. So I do want to rank it higher than what I am going to rank it, but I will say that this album definitely changed the landscape. It definitely helped influence artists like Drake and some of the emotional artists that we have now, and I got to give some appreciation to the Love Below. We've talked about this in the previous video where we ranked the Outkast discography, where we talked about Andre 3000's Love Below. Well, I said that album to me wasn't great, but I could see definitely how it inspired a great album like 808s and Heartbreak. So I do have to give some appreciation to the Love Below, because you can see the heavy influences that album has on this album right here. So 808s and Heartbreak. I mean, honestly, I do want to say one thing though. Jeezy, that wasn't a fair trade. If you don't know what I'm talking about, I think Kanye West and Jeezy had a trade where Jeezy asked Kanye West to be on Put On, and Kanye gave one of the best verses to me of all time, and one of Kanye's best verses of all time as well. That verse was phenomenal. But when you get Jeezy's verse on Amazing, I was pissed. I would have been pissed. If I was Kanye, I would have been pissed. I would have done him like the Game and just kept him off. I would have just kept his ad-libs on the hook, and Jeezy would have been off the actual song itself, because Jeezy's verse, it was not good. But either way, 808s and Heartbreak, it's a good album. I don't want to say it's a phenomenal album, because there are some things that can be tweaked. There are some things that I would have done a bit differently if I was in Kanye's shoes, but obviously Kanye ain't gonna listen to me because, you know, I'm not more successful than him. But either way, I have to rank 808s and Heartbreak at a B. I don't think it's a bad album. I think it's a good album for what it is, especially at the time. And when I first heard this album when I was growing up, I didn't like it. But as I became an adult and kind of relate to some of the messages and theming and some of the emotional attachments that Kanye has on this album, I will say that I definitely enjoy it and appreciate it way more as an adult. Now we're gonna get to the best album of all time. And I've already given you guys this whole spiel, this whole intro for this album. We're gonna be talking about My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, and we already know that this is already gonna go in S. Like I'm not even gonna play with any of y'all. This is gonna go in S. But let's go ahead and look at the track list, and I'm gonna tell you why it's going in S and why it's the best hip hop album of all time. All right, guys. So I don't know how Kanye did it, but with the 13 track album, and I don't count the track 14 right here with See Me Now featuring Beyonce, Big Sean, Charlie Wilson. I don't count that track because I don't think I even own that track on any of the physical media that I do have. But from these 13 tracks right here, Kanye West, he doesn't make an album. He makes art. This feels like a movie that you will never ever see or ever have anything close to experiencing in your life. This movie, to me, the sound, I just call it a movie. This album right here, to me, the sound can be replicated. The flows, the cadences, the actual instrumentals, the actual production, nothing on this album can be replicated. I mean, yeah, obviously some people helped him write here and there. I don't like those Kanye West ghostwriting allegations. Everybody try to make him seem like he's Dr. Dre. I know Kanye be spitting. I know he'd be writing a good amount of his bars. He'd probably just be overcompensating when it comes to actually crediting other people. But songs like Dark Fantasy, which was a great intro track, such a good intro track to an album. We got songs like Gorgeous, Power. Who hasn't? Come on, Power is still being played in movies as of today. We got All the Lights interlude. Ooh, but they got that little violin or whatever that instrument is playing, and then it goes into the actual song with all those vocalists performing and saying All the Lights. Oh my gosh. And then Kanye's verse. I can't, ow, I hurt myself. I can't explain to you enough how much I love All the Lights. And then after that, we have Monster. And I'm not a Nicki Minaj fan, but Nicki murdered this verse. She was spazzing on this verse. Oh my gosh. What was Nicki doing in the booth? I know when she got out, they had to call the fire department because that whole booth was just on fire. Nicki was laying the smackdown on that bad boy. She was looking like Shinram because she was breathing fire like a dragon. I mean, come on. We got songs like So Appalled with one of my favorite rappers, Sci-Hi there, Jay-Z, Pusha T, RZA, Swizz Beatz, even though RZA and Swizz Beatz don't really do anything except for say, you know, effort ridiculous. Besides that, we got Devil in a New Dress featuring Rick Ross, one of Rick Ross's best verses to date. We got Runaway featuring Pusha T with the ding, ding. And it's such a slow build up, but man, it pays off. Oh, this song is so good. We got Heck of a Life. Come on, dog. Heck of a Life is so hard. Blame Game, Lost in the World, Who Will Survive in America. I always keep thinking that I don't like Who Will Survive in America, even though, wait, not Who Will Survive in America, Lost in the World. That's a song that I always keep thinking that I'm not gonna like. But then when I listen to it, I'm like, dang, why do I keep thinking I don't like this song when I do like this song? I already put My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy in S. It's a great album. The lyricism is at its peak. I think everything when it comes to Kanye is at its peak. No album sounds like this at all. You could kind of argue that Late Registration and College Dropout sound the most similar when it comes to Kanye West's discography. This album, I don't think anybody has ever been able to replicate it. The grand scope, the feel of this album right here, it fills the room, man. I just don't know what more to say about My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy. Whenever I put it on, I never just put one song on from it. If I start playing a song from this album, oh, I got to start from the beginning because I got to listen to the whole album at that point. This album is just so good. I can't, well, I can say a lot more about My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, but I might have to say that for another video sometime because I don't want this video to be too long right here. All right, guys, so now it's time to move on to the next album, which is Yeezus, an album that I wasn't expecting, especially coming off of the heels of My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, and it definitely was a surprise. Not a well-liked surprise. Let's go ahead and look at this track list because I really don't. I had to re-listen to it today to remember why I didn't like it, and oh, I remember. Ooh, I remember. Now we have Kanye West's Yeezus right here, which came out in 2013, and it comes out to 10 tracks. It's about like 40 minutes, and honestly, I gotta say that I only like 2 songs from this album, like maybe 3. I like Hold My Liquor, I like I'm In It, I like Blood on the Leaves, Guilt Trip is cool, Bound To is cool. Wow, I really do like more than 2 or 3 songs, but I really did not like this album overall. I felt like the beginning felt very choppy. It felt very, is the word disoriented? I just felt like I didn't know where the album was going. It was going for this weird sound that I still don't like to this day, and I've heard that other artists or other rappers or groups have used this sound as well. I forgot the name of the group, but yeah, I did not like this album at all. To me, the lyricism definitely goes down from My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy itself, and the beats, the production, some of it bumps in the whip, but the other parts, I just don't know. So I'm gonna have to rank Yeezus at a D tier. I think it's a good step in terms of doing something different, but just because you do something different does not mean it's good. You get what I'm saying? So yeah, Yeezus is, I don't know. I might have to move Yeezus down after we do this whole ranking so I can see where everything goes. In fact, let's get rid of E. I think there's too many rankings on here. What? No. Let's get rid of E right here because I just don't like that E is right here. Now we have a D and an F. Let's go ahead and talk about Life of Pablo, which is an album that I was very mixed on. When it first came out, I loved it. I was jamming this. I was in college. I was jamming. It's funny how college dropout, I was in college when this came out. Funny thing, right? Funny coincidence. But let's go ahead and talk about the album that I slowly began to not like anymore. All right, so we have Life of Pablo now, which came out in 2016, and the one thing that I think is unique about this album is that, first of all, this whole album sounds like an amalgamation of Kanye. While I do feel like the lyricism definitely ain't up there for Kanye, Kanye has spit way better bars, way better flows than the stuff that he was doing on this album, but it's not to say that this was a bad album. I think that this is a good rap album, but I don't think that this is a good Kanye West album. I think that this is very subpar. It's very middle of the road right here. There definitely is some stuff that I do like taking from it, but when we have songs like Father Stretch My Hands, where the instrumental, the production is so beautiful, but then he comes in with that weak one verse. Okay, we're gonna let that slide. Ultralight Beam was a great introduction to the album itself. We have Famous, which I do enjoy as well. This album feels like what people think of Kanye, the meme Kanye of, oh, Kanye loves himself so much. You know, back when people said that Kanye was so super narcissistic, that's what I feel like this album is. I feel like this album embodies that. Like I said, there are some songs I do like on here, like Real Friends. Oh, that song is good. We got 30 Hours, No More Parties in LA. Saint Pablo with the Jay-Z sample. Oh my gosh, there is some heat on this album to be had and to be listened to, but to me overall this album feels very middle of the road. Like I said, it's a good rap album, but to me, it's not a good Kanye West album. And then the other thing that I forgot to mention that I feel like is very special for this album, and I say this to everybody that I talk to me, this album is like a video game. You know, when you get a video game for like the PS3, PS4, PS5, you put the game in, and you know, if it's a month or 2 months later, you get an update, you get a patch. Basically, to me, this album right here got so many patch updates that the original album that I have still on my flash drive is not the same album that's on streaming services. Like, there are some actual lyric differences in this album, some production differences, and some people changed out for certain songs. We never heard of that. So for Kanye to be able to do this, and it says that it went 3 times platinum. Why this album? But I mean, I'm not gonna hate because it's Kanye West and I would just want to see Kanye West win. But for that, I might have to rank The Life of Pablo at a C. I don't think that it was a bad album before Kanye West album. It was definitely mid/subpar. So we gotta go to Ye. We gotta talk about Ye. Yeah, we gotta talk about Ye. I hate the fact that we gotta talk about Ye because I had to listen to this today again to make sure why I don't like this album. And as usual, it solidified my opinions of why I don't like this album. So let's go ahead and talk about Ye. Now, Ye came out in 2018, and this came out during the era where Ye was doing these like EP/album things where he wanted all the songs on the album to be like 7 tracks under like 2 or 3 minutes. That way it could be like under 25 minutes as a whole for the actual project itself. He did it with Tiana Taylor. He did it with Kids See Ghosts. He did it with this album, Nas's album, Pusha T's album, with Daytona. So this right here is the worst that Kanye has been lyrically. I just think that this is super silly, super goofy. I feel like he's shooting from the hip, meaning he's not really putting any thought or actual, like, you know, he's not sitting and strategizing with this actual album slash project right here. I don't even want to call this an album. I really want to call this an EP right here. But songs like I Thought About Killing You, yeah, he has that big old speech at the beginning and then he starts rapping. We got songs like Yikes, which I think is a fun track, but I don't think it's a good Kanye West track. All Mine, you know, bottle of thick, yeah. We got Wouldn't Leave, No Mistakes, Ghost Town, Violent Crimes, which is the best song on this whole project right here. I think that this is a very bad Kanye West project, which I still need to get on vinyl, but I'm not in a rush to get this bad boy. So yeah, when it comes to Gay, I hate being bipolar. It's awesome. I get it, especially at the time that all this stuff was happening and when it came out. But I think Kanye trying to limit it to 7 tracks and make it get 25 minutes, while it was great for a listening experience because I was in there and I was out of there in like one drive, I don't think it was good for our actual project itself. I would have rather he just had these as all throwaway songs. Some of these sound like concepts, which we'll dive into later on when we get to Donda. This right here, I did not like it, so I have to put Ye at F tier. This is not a good album, especially for a Kanye West fan and throughout his whole discography. Look at this album compared to My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy. Technically, that's not kind of fair if I put anything against My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy. Look at this compared to Life of Pablo. Life of Pablo is a pretty polished album, a pretty good rap album overall, and I even put that in C. Like I said, very subpar slash middle of the road for Kanye. But now we gotta talk about Jesus is King, which I feel kind of falls into that same vein of Ye, but it's also in the middle of Donda. And I feel like he literally progressed from Ye to Jesus is King to Donda. So let's go ahead and talk about Jesus is King, which is an album that I listen to again. I don't hate this album, but I just don't think it's such a great album. Let's go ahead and talk about it. All right, so now we have Jesus is King. It came out in 2019 and it's only 11 tracks. I mean, it's cool. This album ain't bad, but it's definitely not great or good. It's definitely middle of the road. To me, this is on the same vein as Life of Pablo. I think Life of Pablo is a better album overall. Like I said, Life of Pablo is a good rap album, but for a Kanye West project, I think that this is it's all right. Like, I wouldn't put this high. Like, there's some songs I like on here though. Like, some of these songs is fun. I think this era of Kanye after My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, he just started having fun rather than making actual thought-provoking music like he was in his first 4 to 5 albums. You get what I'm saying? Like songs like Soleil, Close on Sunday, On God, Everything We Need, God Is, Hands On, Use His Gospel. Use His Gospel is like the best song on here, especially production wise. I just wish that they was rapping on the actual part with the drums slash bass on it, because ooh, when them drums and bass, when that comes in, I'm like, where has this been at this whole time? And when I was listening to this on YouTube, because I don't know, my title was tripping at the time, I hear the seatbelt noise, right? And I was looking at the comment section just to see what people's opinion was on this. And it was like, this is super powerful because, you know, Kanye West was in the accident. This is probably one of the last things that he was hearing while he was in the accident, praying to God that he make it through. And I'm like, yo, this song, man, that just adds another layer to the song right there. Use His Gospel, especially with the clips feature. Pusha T and Malice, come on, dog. They was doing their thing on here. Jesus is Lord is also cool as well. I don't want to say that, you know, Jesus is Lord sucks, because that just sounds wrong to say. But overall, I have to give Jesus is King. I put it in the D tier, but I put it above Jesus. I think it's a good attempt, especially with what we get for Donda, but I don't think Jesus is King is a good album overall. But now it's time to talk about the last album that we're going to talk about in this video right here, and it's time to talk about Donda, an album that I'm very divisive on at times, but I do like it overall. So let's go ahead and talk about Donda. All right, guys, so we got Donda, the deluxe version, and it came out in 2021, and as you can see, there are 32 tracks in here. So one of my problems with Donda is that this album is too long, right? This album is too long, and every single song on here feels like concepts. They don't feel like fully fleshed out songs. They feel like more of ideas, something like what Quentin Miller was doing for Drake on If You're Reading This Is Too Late. It feels like you're giving me the skeleton, you're giving me the basis for the song, but you're not giving me the full song. And one thing that I do hate on here, and I get why Kanye did it, him censoring and taking out the cuss words, why didn't you just have some of these people like redo their verse without cussing? I hated the fact that this was bleeped out, censored. You could tell that they was about to cuss, but then it was censored or bleeped out. I hate the fact that Kanye did that, because you could have just told him like, yo, I'm turning this into a gospel album instead, especially named after my mom. Maybe they would have changed their verses up. No cussing, no N-word, no nothing. But instead, you let them cuss, you took their curse words out, and you kept it as that. I hate to say this, but I want an explicit version of this album just to see if it'll change my listening experience itself, because hearing certain things bleeped out while in the middle of the verse, and you know that you're never going to hear the full version of that verse, it just kind of sucks. Now, the production on this album is pretty good overall, but another thing that I do hate about this album is all these part twos. Like, look right here, Remote Control Part 2, Jail Part 2, what else we got? Jesus Lord Part 2. I hate the fact that we have all these part twos, and I hate with the deluxe album, they restructured the album and retracked everything, so it's a different track list compared to the first Donda instead of adding additional things. Now, what I do wish that they did was make a CD1 or CD2 or disc 1, disc 2 and have like a different version of Donda. That way you can have a different listening experience. Instead, this is all put together depending on what streaming service you're listening to. I listened to this on Tidal and I had this on vinyl, and look at where everything is placed at. Like, we have some part ones where part 2 should be instead of part 1. You get what I'm saying? So like, we have Remote Control Part 2 above Remote Control Part 1. Why are we doing this? And the only reason for these part 2s is just to have different people on the verses. Kanye has the exact same verse, exact same production. It's just someone has a different verse on the song. So those two people ain't on the same song technically, but they on the goddamn same song. Just put them songs together, boom. I need a Donda, the complete version. The game of the year, album of the year version, where we just fuse some of these songs that instead of them being concepts or part 2s and part 1s, put them together, make this track list a bit shorter, and have us cussing on this album, because there's already cuss words on here. Just don't bleep it out this time. I think Donda was great as a concept. I think Donda has some great ideas and themes behind it. Donda sounds so good. But sometimes the listening experience can be jarring with you taking out the cuss words, the songs not being fully finished. There's just so many great things about Donda, but there's also some glaring issues that I have with Donda. So with Donda, I have to rank it as a B tier album. It's funny that I'm putting this on the same plane as 808s and Heartbreaks, but 808s and Heartbreaks was a very influential album. I think Donda has the potential to be a very great album if it didn't have all those glaring issues that I just told you guys about. And I definitely think it's better than The Life of Pablo. Like I said, Life of Pablo is a good rap album, but not a good Kanye West album. But yeah, this is my rankings right here. Let me know what you guys think about this down in the comment section down below. I'm actually kind of tired of talking right now. I'm tired of talking. We have all these other joint albums and all these other Sunday service albums that, you know, I'm not going to rank. We even have Cruel Summer in there, which was a good music album itself. And we have Donda 2, which I have not heard. So maybe Donda 2 might go in A or S. I don't know. I heard that Donda 2 is pretty good, but I haven't really heard many people have heard it because of it being on that one device. So yeah, let me know what you guys think about this. Let me know your ranking in the comment section down below. Like I said, thank you guys for watching. And if you are new to the channel, you haven't already, go ahead, hit the subscribe button, post notification bell, like the video. And as usual, wait, this ain't my main channel. What am I doing? See you guys later. Bye.